On this episode of Stay Tuned, we're cramming this big American V8 into this dirt cheap 911. Get her in there.
All right.
What you see here is an all aluminum LS 5.3 liter V8 that makes some pretty nasty horsepower, and we're gonna cram it into the back of this Porsche 911. This is a car that I bought for $6,900. It's a roller. It came with a blown up 3.4 Porsche engine and an automatic. We don't want any of that stuff. I've had a couple of these cars. They drive really, really well. They're the cheapest 911 you can get your hands on, and they're still incredible. But I want more, right? I want to hot rod this thing. I want to go fast. I'm not going to spend a ton of money rebuilding that 3.4 or spending a bunch more money for a 3.8 or even a 4-liter Porsche motor. You're talking 10, 15, 30 grand on those things. Instead, this is Stay Tuned. Let's do it down and dirty. We're going to cram this American V8 into that thing and try to just make a fun, nasty backroads killer for as cheap as possible. All right, so that aluminum beauty over there that looks nice and tidy is actually our third attempt at building a 5.3 on this show. We don't do a whole lot of LS stuff, so when it came about that Barb was building a 6-liter for his Nova, and I wanted to build an all-aluminum 5.3 for my 911, we figured let's get them together, put the same parts in them, throw them at the dyno, and see what kind of power they make, and see if the 6-liter is really worth it. So we did that, and it was an absolute train wreck. Number one, I had traded for an aluminum 5.3 with some shady characters in Philadelphia, and when it got back here, listen, they did say it was probably needed a rebuild or it was just a good core engine, but I thought I could probably just run it. Pulled it apart, rings were stuck, rusted to the walls. It was a disaster. It was unusable. We'd already had the episode idea in motion, and then pivoted to an iron 5.3 that we had laying around also. That's this one. If you watch that episode, this thing was a complete stinker. It was making only 270 horsepower on the dyno. It wasn't aluminum, so I knew I could never use it in my 911. I had said I'll use it in my Cutlass or something down the road. Barb's 6-liter didn't smoke, had great oil pressure, made 350 wheel horsepower through stock exhaust manifolds and a 4L80 transmission, and was just an absolute beast. And I threw this thing on there, this 5.3 with a set of decent heads and the same camshaft that Barb was running, and it made 270 wheel horsepower, and it would lose oil pressure. It was overheating. It was smoking. It was a mess. It was definitely not even worth putting into anything. And now we're back at the drawing board on my 5.3. By the way, we did tear it apart. One concern I had was maybe it's just a 4.8. We measured the stroke. No such luck. It is a 5.3 with absolutely shot cam bearings, which we learned to not reuse or assume that they're good. The rear main seal looked fine, just losing pressure because cam bearings were annihilated. So we were back at the drawing board. We reached out to an actual reputable, solid, used engine supplier, B&R Auto Wrecking. Reached out and said, stop messing around with these questionable junk motors who have very, very shady histories. We will send you 2 5.3 Gen 3 all aluminum engines that we guarantee will work, fire up, have great oil pressure, and make the kind of power that they're supposed to. We said, that sounds fantastic. They came in on a pallet looking crispy. One of them looks basically brand new. So new I actually didn't even use it for this project. I'm gonna save that one for later. To get this aluminum 5.3 ready to go on the dyno and show us the kind of power that a proper running 5.3 can make, we had Barb tear all the good parts off of that iron stinker that only made 270 wheel horsepower. So we pulled out the Summit Stage 3 camshaft along with the corresponding valve springs and lifters. He pulled off the 799 heads that we had refreshed locally by Larry at Roberts Engine Development. They are pristine. And a couple other parts, odds and ends. And here's the thing. What killed us last time was not even looking at the cam bearings. We made a joke that the best way to test those is to just ignore them. And we went out, got the Summit tool and a set of fresh cam bearings, and Barb installed those as well. So with all those parts in, it's time to take this thing over to PSR Performance, put it back into our GM A-body frame, and see what kind of power a good running 5.3 can really make, because we just can't let it lose to that 6-liter by, what, 80 horsepower, whatever it was, 90 horsepower. It's not right. This thing's gonna jam. Let's get out there. Okay, we are here at PSR for the moment of truth. You recall last time, Barb's 6-liter made 350 horsepower with this same camshaft, and my iron beat 5.3 that was just a slug made 270 wheel horsepower, spitting oil everywhere, smoking, and eventually giving up the ghost. So we feel much better about this thing, and I'm ready to get it rocking and rolling. Since this is a Gen 3 engine. We have to run the 24X pickups. So Brad's gonna go in, leave the tune the way it was on that screaming 270 horsepower pull from before, and just change it from 58X to 24, and it should fire it up and run pretty good. Ignition, yeah, I got you. Should we like, you can do it, you can do it. Good luck. You're gonna be good, yeah. You can do it this time, all right? Nice work, I'll take it. We couldn't pay for 70 PSI oil pressure on the last one, remember that? Yeah, this is idling at like 49 PSI of oil pressure, just revving it up to, you know, 2 grand, got it up to 70. Feel good, sounds good. We'll get a little break in on the dyno, but rock and roll, let's go. Well, she's warmed up now.
Yeah. This is a good time to let it sit. Turn the fan on.
Yeah. All right, so the idea is fire this thing up, warm it up, bring it up to temp. It now has a 160-degree thermostat in it instead of stock's, what, 190 or 200? So it's a little bit more performance-oriented and keep it a little bit cooler. It did get over well over 200, so it means it needs to burp and fill up with, you know, it's got a big air pocket in it. So we're going to deal with that. But all we want to do is run it for a little bit, bring it up to temp, and let it cool down. Kind of as a little break-in, little nice break-in procedure. While that happens, we're waiting on some pizza. Hopefully that gets here soon. So I pulled the bleed line off the top, nothing in here. We did do this last time. We're gonna do a tall funnel, fill this until we eventually get enough air out of the system that it's properly filled.
Can you see if there's some water?
Air does not cool your engine down.
Yeah.
It does a really bad job of transferring heat. The original idea here is we wanted to pit a 5.3 against a 6-liter. I wanted an aluminum 5.3 for my Porsche 911 LS swap, and Barb wanted a 6-liter for his 64 Nova project. And the idea was, is it worth all that extra money to spend on the 6-liter because they're about twice as much money? The goal was, he said he would beat me by at least 50 wheel horsepower, and we made a bet that the loser, if he didn't make more than 50 or if I made way less than 50 horsepower than him, the loser would have to wax their nose hair. And since my old wrecked iron 5.3 made 270 wheel horsepower and he made 350, I did in fact have to rip every single hair out with this wax stick that is directly straight from hell. I did it, it's done, it's in the rear view now. Barb took off and it was time to see the power numbers from this bad boy. But if it makes over 300 wheel horsepower, I will be thrilled because number one, my 911 will be an absolute rocket ship with probably 325 wheel horsepower because it'll be manual, a little bit less loss. And number two, I feel like Barb should probably wax his nose hairs, right? This has to happen.
We need to sound like that at idle.
What'd you say?
We need to sound like that at idle.
Yeah, you sound good. Coming out of the back of 911, that'd be great. I want to take 2 seconds to say thank you to Top Don for supporting Stay Tuned. They have a great little product here. This is their OBD2 scanner. And this thing has bidirectional control, which means it can activate different components inside of your car so you can test them in real time, like the fuel injectors or a coolant pump or even the windshield wipers. At under $80, it is incredible to find all these features in one little unit. It is a killer little Bluetooth unit that if you drive a more modern car like some of us do and you've got a check engine light, you plug this little bad boy in there, you download the app on your phone, and it's that simple. You can clear anything you need. It's got an extensive library. It runs with over 60 brands, so if you've got a Yugo or something, they've got you covered. Barb has a 2015 Jeep with a sweet 5.7 Hemi in it. That's been thrown in code for a little while. We plugged it in there, went through all the diagnostics, very easily were able to clear those codes, delete them, and they did not come back. And then we stumbled onto the best part. There is a performance meter built into this thing with 0 to 60, eighth mile, quarter mile, and mile per hour all dialed in. So once Barb's car was running at 100%, we took it out and ran 0 to 60 in 7.4 seconds in that thing. So killer little product, and thanks for supporting. Stay tuned. Go out and grab one if you need it.
276, a whopping 6 more than last time, but Brad said there's no timing it yet. We're gonna get that number up. I'm not whacking my nose there a second time. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, let's do it. Pizza's been delivered. Let that thing cool off while we smash down some perfect pies. Look at that. Absolute perfection. Oh, yeah. I'm ready. Beauties. Old school pies. Wednesday only. Pottstown, PA. All right, so what are you running? What kind of timing we have this thing?
I'm at 24 degrees. We can pull a plug and look at it really quick. It wouldn't hurt us.
Why not? We have pretty good access here.
That was empty like probably about a year and a half.
All right, let's run another one at 24.
Run it the same way.
Okay. Right, so we ran it out a little higher on the same exact tune, ran it to 7,000 RPM, and through an automatic, through stock manifolds, it made 295 wheel horsepower. We're really getting there now, finally. We're gonna check this plug. I put a fresh plug in. Brad will read the electrodes, see what the timing mark looks like, and get an idea if we should feed some more to it. Kind of like a blend of old school tuning and new school tuning here at TSR. So where the mark is here, how far back on the band the timing mark is going to be, the burn is going to tell them if you should add or take out timing.
It looks like it's all the way down here.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty far down.
Does that mean more?
No.
Less?
I mean, good.
It's good.
It's good.
So let's crack it open.
Now I'm excited because that means we put headers on this thing and a proper intake and run it through a manual trans. It'll probably make 330 wheel horsepower in a light Porsche 911 that's rear wheel drive. It's going to be an absolute animal. The only thing I don't love is that Barb's 6-liter through the same manifolds with the same zero intake through this automatic did make 350. So we made 295 so far. I'd like to make 6 more horsepower just to stick it to them. gonna try to get that nice, cold, dense air from above the radiator in. Seems to make a little more power. Barb's not here. Barb's not here. Yeah, that's the next one. Just hose it in there a little bit.
That'd be really good to do it now. Try this out.
Last shot. Now, whatever mojo you got to talk to the engine to start the run earlier, whatever. Do that.
You want me to talk? You want me to start earlier?
Whatever makes horsepowers. I want you to do it. I think it did 292.
292.
It sounded good.
Yeah.
We're gonna try. We may not get over 300, but we're gonna try a little harder right now. Here's what I know. It runs killer. It's about 300 wheel. With the right headers on it and a manual trans, it's gonna make a bunch more. Brad will tune it in the 911. The car will be a killer. But we can't harass Barb about it making 300 horsepower, and that's a bummer. We lowered the tire pressure, which shouldn't make it better, but we're gonna try.
And you made an elephant trunk air intake?
Yes, the big thing we did is give it some fresh, cold air above the radiator. Also, it's like, has time to actually suck it into like a laminar straight flow, as opposed to like just blasting it in from everywhere at the throttle body and it's hot. You can see on the dyno chart, it's making more area under the curve for sure. You just need a little more peak. We'll be happy. One more look at the plugs. What do you think?
It looks like it's right there, right at the.
I think.
Before the weld, yeah. Okay.
You want to go more?
No.
It's got plenty of timing. It's burning that all the way back to the band here. Oh, is this the last and final run? Let's see what happens. All right, last run. Let's see if we can clear 300. What?
I saw 300.
It said 300. It said 300. I'm claiming it. It said up there, it said 300. I'm claiming it.
We round up.
We're done. Let's wrap it up. Look up there. Look up there.
Look at it, off the charts.
We are back from the dyno. My little 5.3 made 299.7. Let's call it 300 wheel horsepower through stock exhaust manifolds and a 4L80, which is known to sap some power. Pretty burly. We had a bet before. If he didn't make more than 50 horsepower more than I did, the loser would have to wax their nose hair, and I did that like a champion. Just did it. I didn't cry about it. And I thought if I could make more, a little like 2 more, then I would make you do it. But realistically, he made 51 more horsepower than my motor did, because I think you did 350 and change, and we did 299 and change. So Barb's nose hair remains intact. If that's the kind of thing you're into, he's still good to go.
See those guys in there?
All right. He is going to change the oil pan setup from the GM A-body style from the Holley swap pan over to a very cool Moroso pan that's going to let us keep this motor in one piece. And I'm going to come over here to where all the fancy adapter parts are, and I'm going to learn about this Chavis LS system. All right. I breezed through those Chavis instructions pretty fast. It's mostly pictures.
Yeah, but pictures are great.
Oh, yeah.
That. Trying to mitigate the mass a little here. I didn't do the best job. Thanks, bud.
Early on in the LS swap into 996 game, our buddy Tyler Hoover on Hoovy's Garage did this swap, and it promptly exploded, leaving a million people to expect that that's what's going to happen anytime you put an LS into the back of a 911, and that's just not the case. He put it in with an unbaffled pan, and when oil is sloshing all over the place with a high G, chassis like this 911, it's going to pull it away from the pickup. It's going to suck air. Your motor's going to run dry of oil. Oil pressure goes down, and everything explodes. It's pretty standard stuff.
Pretty standard,
but
yeah.
if you reach out to Moroso, they've got a bunch of pans that will sort you right out. This is more or less a front sump, but it's technically called a 240SX pan that's set up for drifting or road racing, and it is all about oil control. You see all of the capacity is in one spot, directly underneath the pickup, and it has a trap door in each direction. So no matter what you're doing, you're throwing the car left or right or whatever, it's opening a trap door and forcing oil back towards that pickup, and once it's in, it can't get out. That's what the trap door means. The only place for it to go is through the oil pump and continually lubricating your engine. So this is a killer setup. If you're going to do this swap, make sure you get your hands on one of these, and you're good to go.
Hold it up, baby.
Yes. Front. Which ones? I keep forgetting the front. This is okay, front, but it's also the back. It's the front, but in a 911, it's the back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny. It's
Yeah.
still the same way.
I'm going to put it in the hole.
Yeah.
There it
Look
goes.
at that. Whoa. Look at this thing, baby.
These cars are built incredibly well and also like in a very satisfying way to work on. I found out we've had 2 of these. One we did a transmission replacement, a bunch of work, set of headers, and everything comes apart in a way that makes sense. Everything looks to be built like in such a solid manner. It turns out Porsche knows the thing or two about building cars. I guess that's probably goes without saying. Okay, so you need to bolt an American V8 to a 911 Porsche transmission and then shove it up in that German car. So you need all sorts of parts. Well, Chavis Performance has you sorted out. They've got every piece you're going to need. This is what connects the engine to that German transmission with this special flywheel that is properly spaced out to take up that slack. Spec clutch bolts right to it. We'll talk about this stuff in detail later. And then all these go together as some kind of erector set and are going to mount this engine setup into the car. Let's rock. All right, this is one of the more complicated pieces. You can see this is all cut from one big hunk of aluminum billet, and then they install the starter ring on there, and it has this removable friction surface.
This one's down at the bottom.
Which one?
Down here.
I see. This whole setup is from Chavis Performance. I believe spec gets in on the clutch setup. And I would think probably this removable friction surface. I'm going to come through and hit this with a little bit of Scotch Brite and then acetone because it's been sitting a little bit. Got one in there?
I do.
Cool. On the LS crankshafts, are they all passed through?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I believe so, yes.
Be aware, I believe it's, what's the opposite of a blind hole?
Through hole.
A through hole. They're through holes. So you've got oil, doing the oil slapping around party thing inside your motor, splashing every which way. If you don't put sealant on these bolts, it'll come right through and start leaking. You've got a flywheel here and a clutch. If it gets in the clutch, could either, like, if it's organic, it'll make it melt and gross, and if it's just on oil, it's just gonna create hot spots and all sorts of problems. So we're using ARP bolts for these. We're gonna do the ARP friction compound under just the head, and then a good dollop of red Loctite all down the threads, especially at the top. Show them, Barb. We're making a show here, bud.
Ooh.
Yeah, more maybe.
More than that?
I don't know.
That's
We'll
a
see.
lot of
If it
Loctite.
leaks, make sure it's healthy.
That red gabagool.
Yeah, hit it with that good juice. This is a cool setup because you don't have to figure out if you had an automatic, like getting a pilot bearing in there. It's all built in here because it basically is going to step everything off the thickness of that adapter. So it's a pretty cool setup. Also, I went down to check out the Chavis operation Guy runs it mostly out of his house, which is a big red compound property setup. But he had a few cars there, and I did get to drive them around. And let me tell you, they are nasty. Mostly 495 horsepower LS3 powered all-wheel drive units he's building there, and they are rocket ships.
I don't think I've ever seen you that pumped. To
I
get
was
in a
pretty
car before.
happy. It works pretty great. I was like, I can't wait to build this thing. Rear-wheel drive though, because I like to party. This thing's gonna jam. And what's cool is like he had 997s. They have the round headlights. They're a little bit more bougie. This is about as down and dirty of a Porsche 911 as you can get your hands on. 99, 2000, got the fried egg headlights that nobody likes, and that's fine with me because they're affordable-ish. Yeah.
This one was.
This one was.
For sure.
I legitimately just put it was on eBay.
Wow.
I think it had a buy it now scenario at like 8,500, but you can make an offer, and I just put in 6,900 bucks after having a couple beers because I thought it was hilarious, and then I woke up owning a Porsche. Win all around.
Sure is.
And that spurred me to get rid of that old Ford V10 unit and buy a Dodge with a Cummins in it, which was even better.
That was a serious week.
Yeah, it was a big week. Big week. A lot of transition that week. I'm gonna go 30, 55-ish, 85, somewhere in there. My torque wrench doesn't go under 50, I don't think so.
Start there.
That's where I started. A couple spins down from 50. Now we'll go over 50. Yeah, it feels good.
That's it? From 50 to 80 something?
I didn't get to 80.
Oh. It's like, what's going on?
That was from like wherever I felt like underneath. And
50
then
to
took
51?
55, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hold on. All right, rock and roll. All right, so just to update, this entire unit is made by Spec to work with their clutches. We've got the stage 2 system here.
So, yeah.
And they run anything up to 3 or 4. It means like multi-disc. You can do a twin plate or a triple plate. They've got it all dialed in for more horsepower. If I want to slap a couple turbos on here down the road, then we'll upgrade to a twin disc or even more. But this is a sprung cerametallic disc, so it's gonna jam pretty well. It's gonna be a little bit aggressive. Ready to rock. Go ahead, slide that over. Find the dowel pins, find the holes.
There's a lot of dowel pins.
You're not in the ballpark
Yeah,
there.
no,
You're going to be right there, I believe. So,
Yep.
there you go. Even with an alignment tool, I usually try to center it up and tighten a few down. Bro, that's paid for, baby. That's on the company card. Let it fly. Like I said, I will center this as best I can, even with a pilot tool, and sometimes just hold it there while I slow those things down. And I'll jump around just to that. I'll do 3 while I snug it down and hold it. All right, it's pizza time. We're still rocking late at night. We're getting the transmission on. We went out and grabbed a local slice half pet from our slice shop. Very good as far as regular pizza goes. And this was donated by Richard Ryall, guy in England who said he loves the content. He's got a 71 Camaro he keeps on rocking with. So we appreciate you. Oh, we have a pizza button now. If you want to donate or buy us a pizza, check this out right here. See it? There it is. Incredible. All right, the next thing is this key piece. This is the actual adapter. Chevy on one side, Porsche on the other. You can tell that it is pretty beautifully machined because it does this.
Oh,
It's a nice fit.
the satisfaction.
Nice piece there. A little Loctite. It's getting late. You hear the crickets?
I hear him.
Look at that.
That's what money gets you.
Yep.
Okay, so we don't need
Sick. Right there.
Oh boy.
There are some more rough and ready conversion kits out there. The Chavis stuff is beautiful.
Pray now.
Very sweet. Well thought out, dialed, built tough, good stuff. So this is a transmission unit that we're going to use in my 911. When I first bought my first 996, it was a 99 convertible with a bad transmission. Back then, you could go out and buy a used transmission for like $1,400. That's what I did. Slap it in there and be off and having a blast. The reason I was able to buy my first 911 so cheap, I paid $5 grand for it, is that it popped out of gear like crazy, and it had a bunch of issues with the shifting. The cables had come out, that pretty common thing, and there was like a second gear pop out issue, very common. But instead of going out and buying another used trans, which now costs over $3,000 because hyperinflation or whatever, I took the transmission out of the basement. I took it over to Charlie's Gears, which is not too far away, and I had him rebuild this unit and install a killer helical style wave track differential. So this thing has a proper, aggressive, limited slip in it. It's all been rebuilt with that limited slip from wave track, and it's ready to rock. It should be tip top. I'm very excited about it. We realized we were missing a bunch of small parts in here as far as clutch release, and we hit up the guys at Pelican, and they sent us over everything we need: a new sleeve, a new clutch fork, and a new slave cylinder. So we're just about ready to rock. Oh, and this is the pivot ball. If you're running one of these, this has the early style, I believe, in it, or at least one that's just been annihilated, and we're gonna swap that out. You can see this machined one has a bigger surface for the friction, and I don't know if it's just been worn down over time or it came like that, but the 99 cars were the first ones, and there have been some pretty serious upgrades to them. You want to grab a socket for that? We'll swap that out. We'll swap the tube out.
Get the other one. See what it says.
Yeah. That's dry. That's that main chassis. We probably don't need to change out this sleeve. Maybe a little bit overkill, but Pelican has like every moving part for every Porsche for the last 50 years. So it's pretty sweet.
Impressive.
Yeah, they've got some stuff.
Impressive.
And they sent us over a bunch of goodies for this thing, which is great because trying to get your hands on it used or individually would be tough without their extensive catalog. So totally worth it. And yeah, I got a local guy. You know, there are plenty of Porsche transmission specialists out there. We like to keep it local when we can. Charlie's Transmissions and Gears. He said, I've done a couple of them in the 944 boxes, the wave tracks, and I'll get it done. And he did. And he's a super knowledgeable guy. Yarf. Mangled my hand there.
All right, send her home.
Yeah, you got a little dash of high temp grease for the fork and we'll be good. Light skim of grease.
We got barb here.
Get some in this
This is
cup.
not the first time I've done this on one of these. It's all coming back to me.
Get that cup.
I did the last one. This transmission came out.
I was
And
gonna
while
say
they were ripping stuff out of the car, I remember sitting on the floor over there playing.
There you go. That's it. All right, we're back at it. Barb says this thing goes on here.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right, let's go down slow and redo the chain.
We're here to marry this American V8. This beautiful German transmission. Do you? Yeah, do you? Great. Okay, let's do it. A little more. Good.
There?
Yeah. More. 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 Good. We'll just walk it in straight. I'm telling you. I've been thinking a lot about this. We're going to call this car PowerKraut.
You in for it?
I'm in. Unless that's like supremely offensive for some reason. Cut that part out. We're calling this thing PowerKraut. It's the best, right? It's like sauerkraut, but with a bunch of American horsepower.
I love it.
Let's do it. Cars with real good names.
Do well.
Best. Not do well. That's the best.
It is the best.
He's a Michael, so.
Give me a curve to this corner, and then go up. That curve is Something like that, yeah. They're a little fatter. Hold on. I think. All right, we've got the Chavis directions. All these dark shaded areas are getting removed, so we can cram that V8 in here. Barb really likes zebras, so he paints everything up like a zebra.
Zebras are cool, man.
They're like horses, but cooler.
Best gum ever.
Yeah.
We're going in Sawzall style.
Zimmy, you're missing out.
No big deal. Razor blade right there, baby. What line?
Mint line.
It's like my power stance. Hello.
Woo! Nice work.
Okay, I cut as much metal as we think needs to be cut out. Barb's gonna come in with the flap wheel and clean it up. It's pretty straight. I am going to throw a welding blanket over the rear window because a million people rightfully told me with the Polara that it's gonna nick up the glass if I didn't, so that's good. One of the reasons I like these cars so much is that they handle incredibly well, and the weight balance, even though it's pretty far back, is wild. These things have corner exit speed like just about nothing else on the road. I wanted to not wreck that, so I did two things. Number one, I made sure we got our hands on an aluminum V8. It's about 100 pounds lighter than the iron version, so that's a big step in the right direction. And this Chavis kit actually has two mounting positions. One is further back, it's a little bit easier to fit things. And then one is far forward, which needs a little bit of fab work, but should have our balance a little bit better. And I'm excited. We're going to try to get it in the forward position. Like I said, it's a little more work to do, but it should pay dividends when I'm behind the wheel. Of old PowerKraut. PowerKraut. What's that? PowerKraut.
What's that sound?
Crickets, I think. What are they saying? PowerKraut. Okay, we are just about ready to fit our V8 and Porsche transmission back up into my 911. We have cut out as much metal as I think is necessary to fit the engine. We're gonna remove a couple things that just go across the middle. This is all made to put your drivetrain up from underneath, as any good Porsche does. We're gonna remove this big crossbar out of the subframe, which just bolts in for this exact reason. Take the sway bar off and another brace in the front, and I think we're gonna try just send her home. Solid. We have outfitted this thing with one of my favorite intakes ever, MSD's Atomic Air Force. It works really well. It's pretty compact. I don't know if it's going to fit inside this thing. If not, we'll have to use it on another project, but let's give it a chance.
Calling it a hub-centric. I almost can't see the motor.
Probably stop around there.
Woo! Okay. So.
It's big. That's a big old motor. Compared to that little 3.4 that was in here. All right, you want to go down? There's some more room to go down.
Yeah.
We might fit this manifold, right?
Say when.
Come on. Stop.
Wow.
I think that's.
It's the best it gets right there.
She's kissing, huh?
If it fits, It ships.
That's for sure. Wow, it's not gonna.
You know, we need to put a plate.
Yeah, and the pillow block. We're like an inch away, I think.
Makes more sense. I love this manifold. It looks so good in there.
It does.
Oh, look at that. Man, this is a cool project. I'm so stoked on this. You know, like LS, I'm like, oh, it's another LS. LS in a 911 is very exciting. LS in the front of your G-body, not exciting. LS in the back of a 911. All right, so we pulled the intake off. It didn't fit, no big deal, we'll find something else. We're gonna lower it back down and start using this Chavis Performance mount kit to get this thing hung up in there. We have the mount plates in on top of the Porsche mounts. And what we're gonna try to do here is start assembling these boys that are essentially these giant wings that come off of the cylinder heads and support the whole back of the motor and the drivetrain. You got to go just a hair more down with the car. And we've got these big motor wings bolted to the cylinder heads and these plates where the old Porsche mounts were. And then it's just a matter of getting this isolator in, and this is going to lock into that motor wing. Like I said, you can put this behind or in front, effectively moving the engine forward or back about 1.5 inches. We've got it shoved forward for better handling and a little bit better fitment back here too, I believe. I'm going to push it up as soon as we get up there. Oh, the engine mounts in, now we got to deal with the transmission mount.
She's leaning, Larry.
This is the factory main Porsche manual transmission mount. Why we have one in our automatic car, we have no idea. We have them both for some reason. Normally this faces this way. There's a secondary brace that kind of triangulates everything. And as you can see, there's studs that come down from the frame and push this back about 3/4 of an inch, these holes. Our big idea is to flip it this way, use the factory holes, and see if these will line up with the mount. There's a little bit of wiggle room front and back with these Chavis mounts, and we're gonna see if it'll just bolt in happily. Let me raise the car. Everyone be careful. So with a little modification, this little mount flip is totally gonna work. Just throw some nuts on it and let's put a bolt through it. A little bit of monkey business, and it went in by just flipping that mount around, grinding a tab off. And she seems pretty happy. It's not perfect, but it's real close. So I'm gonna consider that mounted in. Do a little bit of grinding, we'll massage later. Down, here we go. It is late at night, but my aluminum 5.3 is crammed into the back of this 911, looking and sitting pretty. This is kick ass. PowerKraut is born. Look at it. That is wild. How's she sitting now? Proper? Oh, that is good. Really does fit in there strangely well. To be honest, even with the Porsche engine in there is not a lot of room to move your hands around. So this is something. Yeah, it's a bummer.
There's like quite a bit of room behind there. That's the surprise. Like.
Yeah, I'm glad we pushed it forward. I think that'll help everything out.
Fits in there pretty well when you have the mounts coming out. Yeah,
Sure does.
crazy.
All right, that's it. I've got my 400-ish horsepower aluminum 5.3 bolted to that refreshed Porsche transaxle with the wave track in it. This thing is full of Summit goodies. We bolted it down with all that Chavis Performance parts, and I'm so excited about the birth of PowerKraut. I cannot wait to get this thing going. That is it for this episode of Stay Tuned. Thanks for hanging out. I think next week we're getting back into the Cyclone, but this won't be far off. Two of my favorites now.